New leaked details have come out about Marvel Spider-Man 2. Stick around to find out more. Hey, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be going over some new leaked details for Marvel Spider-Man 2. I do want to give a shout out to Marvel Spider-Man Access on Twitter, who has condensed all of this information into one thread and makes it a hell of a lot easier to read. And the source is actually coming from gamestoday.info, and this was an article that was posted on their website. But like I do say at the start of every single news video, if it is a rumor, then take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, this might not be true, as these are labeled as leaks. If you are new around here and enjoy all types of Spider-Man content, from the news and the rumors, from the games, movies, and shows, then make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss another video. Also, make sure to hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you can stay in the loop with all of the updates. But with that being said, let's get straight into the video. So obviously, like I did say, this has come from Marvel Spider-Man Access, who has compiled all of this information from this leak and has basically put it in a Twitter thread, and it's really easy to read, and I'm going to go through it one by one, breaking it down for you guys. So the first piece of information is regarding Peter and Miles being playable. It's not going to be a situation where you can switch freely between them at any time. There will be some missions that will allow you to choose who you want and will be strictly attached to Peter or Miles. So basically, this is already predicted. I already said that in a couple of videos before that I didn't think that we would be able to play as Peter or Miles just whenever we wanted. Obviously, there will be a few missions where we are strictly going to have to play as Peter or Miles depending on the story, and there will be missions that we'll be able to play with either of them. And I think that this leak is just further backing this point. This has come from multiple sources over the past. Multiple different leaks have said the same thing about the game, so I do think this is probably one of the things that is going to be more than likely true. The next thing is, over the course of the game, there will be team-up missions with the support of an AI. There will be separate library of suits for both Peter and Miles, and when playing as either of them, you will have the option to change your suit at any time. And this also goes for the cutscenes as well. So this is similar to the first game, that all of the suits that you can play as in the game will be available for the cutscenes, and I think this is obviously going to be a feature in the sequel. This is no surprise. We did not need a leak to confirm this to us, because this was going to happen either way, because this was a feature of the first game. There is no reason why they would take this away, and obviously an AI will support us on team-up missions. Now, this is something that we already thought was going to happen due to the Marvel Spider-Man 2 trailer already showcasing Peter and Miles teaming up to take some thugs down. Also, at the start of Spider-Man Miles Morales, before Peter goes away for the game, he does actually help you take down the Rhino, and you get to team up with Peter at the start of the game. Now, I do reckon that in Marvel Spider-Man 2, we're going to get something very, very similar, which will allow the AI to help either Peter or Miles, whichever one you're playing as, to help you take down whoever the villain is. Now let's move on to Venom and the black suit. Now, according to the article, Venom will not be playable as a character. Now, this is something that I discussed in one of my previous videos about a week and a half ago. I discussed the idea of Venom being playable and how that would actually work if that was to be implemented into the game. And while it could be a cool idea, the leak suggests that Venom will not be playable. However, this is once again a leak, so take it with a grain of salt. Venom could still be playable within the game. Due to this leak, they are saying that Venom will not be playable, and I can see why, because we're already playing as Peter and Miles anyway, so adding a third playable character is just completely unnecessary. And the leak also says that Peter will have the black suit at some point in the game. Now, this is another obvious one. We knew that Peter was going to get the black suit because that is the classic story. However, this is a alternate universe, and this is a brand new story, so they could switch this up any other way they want. But in some capacity, we are expecting Peter Parker to get the symbiote within the game. Venom and Kraven, according to the leak, will be the main villains of the game. Now, obviously, in Marvel Spider-Man 1, we got the surprise reveal that Otto Octavius was actually the main villain of the game and not Mr. Negative. Now, although we had hints of that, we had no idea who it was until the game actually came out. So even if this leak is telling us that Venom and Kraven will be the main villains of the game, which, due to the trailer, is already quite obvious, that does not concretely mean that there will be a big final boss of the game, potentially someone like Green Goblin. However, I do think that this is unlikely, considering I think Norman and Green Goblin will be saved for the third game, but there still is a possibility of this happening. We also have a little bit more info on why the symbiote will leave Peter in favor for Venom, and it is because the symbiote will find a better and stronger match than Spider-Man at some point in the game, and that's why he will leave Peter. Now, one thing that interests me about this part of the leak is the fact that this hints towards Eddie Brock potentially being the Venom instead of Harry Osborn. Now, the reason I say that is because obviously Harry is ill in the game, and the symbiote wants to bond with someone that can give them a perfect match. And obviously Spider-Man being Spider-Man, he's strong, you know, he's mentally strong, physically strong. The symbiote would find him as a good host. Now, Harry isn't in that sense a good host because he's ill, he's deteriorating, and the symbiote probably couldn't use him as a good source for a symbiotic relationship. Therefore, he would have to find someone else. And if that someone else isn't someone like Miles Morales, who is another superpowered being, then the only other person that could theoretically be is Eddie Brock, in the sense that we know he's jacked, you know, he's strong, and that's just how he's usually depicted in the comics and a bunch of other media. So the fact that it could be Eddie is very possible according to this leak. Although when you do look at this from a story perspective, having Venom be Harry Osborn works way better as a story than it does if it was Eddie Brock. And that is simply because in the first game, they set up all of this exposition with Harry, Peter, and MJ being really good friends of the past, and setting all of that up, they can't just throw Harry to the sidelines in favor for Eddie Brock, because the story is there. The emotional stakes have already been planted in Marvel's Spider-Man 1 for Harry to come back to be a future character. Therefore, I think if they use Harry as Venom, the emotional toll it will carry on Peter and MJ will be significant for the narrative. However, would Eddie Brock work in the same way that Harry Osborn would for story purposes? Personally, I don't think he would. However, Eddie Brock does already exist within the Marvel Spider-Man universe. From one of Peter's old backpacks that you can collect in the game, you can actually see a good luck card from everyone signed at the Daily Bugle when he left. One of the key ones being J. Jonah Jameson, Betty Brant, you can see Gloria Grant on there, you can see Robbie Robertson, and you can also see Eddie Brock, which means Peter already knew who Eddie was, but since he hasn't been referenced or mentioned by Peter or MJ or anyone else further on in the game, just further proves that there probably wasn't much of a connection between them, and they obviously did not stay in touch, the same way that MJ, Peter, and Harry did all after high school. However, according to this leak, the symbiote will find a better match, and Harry isn't a better match than Spider-Man. It would have to be someone like Eddie Brock, who obviously isn't ill, or just anyone that's not Harry. So that's one part of the leak that I don't buy, only for narrative reasons. However, this could still be true, and Eddie Brock could still be Venom. Peter's Iron Spider-like mechanical spider arms will feel a lot more like you're controlling them, rather than they're just there, like the first game, with the Iron Spider arms that came with the suit. Now, this is another part of the leak that I can totally see being true, in that obviously the Iron Spider arms were featured in the trailer, and I do think that they will be a big part of the game, probably inspired by Doc Ock of the last game and taking on his ideas for the suit of Spider-Man. According to the leak, we will also have a way bigger map. Now, this is something that we've been talking about for quite a long time, saying that we potentially could be getting Brooklyn and Queens in this game, although I only think we're going to be getting Queens, and here's why. I think this leak has some validity to it in the fact that we're going to get a bigger map, because as we do know, at the end of the first game and also the start of Miles Morales, we know Peter Parker is rearranging Aunt May's house and actually packing her stuff up. So it's very likely that Peter could potentially move into Aunt May's house, thus giving us Queens as an extra part of the map. But it's also likely that we could potentially get Brooklyn, because obviously we know that connection is there with Miles as well. Wall crawling has been improved as well, no more getting stuck on geometry. It's also been made moderately faster too. You'll also have the option to wall crawl even faster with the mechanical arms while playing as Peter. I can totally see this being true. I can totally see the arms not just aiding us in combat, but the arms also allowing us to have other mobility features, such as climbing the walls, web swinging, and doing all sorts of stuff. You can also now stand on buildings with the aid of the mechanical arms while playing as Peter. Peter now has more air trick options thanks to mechanical arms as well, something else that I think will be drastically improved in this game from the first, and both characters also have new access to ground tricks, including web skating on the back of vehicles. Now, this was one thing that, remember when Spider-Man was added to Fortnite, that a lot of people said and compared with Marvel Spider-Man, saying this should have been a feature that was in that game. If this leak is true, or if there's any truth to any of this leak, then web skating will be included within Marvel Spider-Man 2, which I think will be absolutely awesome. That'll provide for some really cool gameplay mechanics as well, where web skating on cars could potentially be a way to take out thugs. And finally, these are just like little tidbits and small bits of information, but there will be new and improved animations, gadgets, abilities, enemies, etc. And bosses are more strategy based rather than pattern based. So obviously, as we know in the first game, they were very pattern based, but this will be more strategy based, which, assuming this is true, will give you more than one way to take them down. This would also tie into the idea that you can play some missions as either Peter or Miles, because then you could take a villain down with, let's say, Miles's Venom blast, but then you could replay the same mission with Peter Parker, but then take the villain down with the Iron Spider arms. Another piece of information is that every time you land a few hits on each boss, they will switch up their ways, and there's something special you will need to do to get hits on them again, which once again spicing up that creativity, once again using different features and gameplay mechanics, like I did say, the Venom blast, then maybe moving to the arms, and then maybe moving to a web strike or moving to something else. What this leak is telling us is that the gameplay is going to be spiced up a hell of a lot in Marvel Spider-Man 2. But with that being said, that is it for this quite lengthy leak video on Marvel Spider-Man 2. A lot of things that we kind of already knew or assumed would be true, but once again coming from another source, which solidifies other leaks that have said the same thing, almost backing each other up. But once again, like I did say at the start of the video, take all of this with a grain of salt, because none of it might be true. And also, big shout out to Marvel Spider-Man Access on Twitter. I'll leave a link to the Twitter handle in the description down below, because this guy's made this information really easy to read. And also, he posts all types of Marvel Spider-Man 2 updates and news. So, you know, if you are interested mainly in Marvel Spider-Man 2 news, then give this guy a follow, because he does it all. Anytime something new comes out, a trailer, updates, leaks, he posts on it. So go follow him as well. But also subscribe to the channel as well, because I post all that kind of stuff as well. I'll be reporting on all the Marvel Spider-Man 2 leaks, as well as from the movies and the games and the shows and everything to do with Spider-Man. I cover all types of news. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Once again, like I did say, follow him in the description below. Awesome guy. And also, if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel for all types of videos. Hit the bell so you do not miss the videos as soon as you go out on the channel. And also, if you are interested in superhero based clothing designs from your favorite superheroes like Spider-Man or Batman, and just clothes that you can wear to the gym, out and about with your friends, or just generally anywhere, then I give you I Am Superhero. They do really good quality designs. I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can go and check them out. And if you want to purchase one, then go ahead. They're awesome designs. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.